Russia has accumulated attack aircraft, ballistic missile systems and long-range anti-aircraft missiles near the Ukrainian-Belarus border. All this is under the pretext of military training. In response, the Ukrainian border guards are ready for an enhanced mode of operation. They increased the number of patrols and stretched barbed wire along the border. There is special attention to the adjacent side. The situation at the border can be better. Near the border with Belarus, Ukrainian special forces work out the liberation of cities and keep tanks at the ready. Considering the situation at the border of our state, one of the units of the brigade is in constant combat readiness. How likely is an attack from the territory of Belarus? Fighters, anti-aircraft missile systems, artillery installations and several thousand soldiers. Russia has deployed troops to Belarus to participate in the Allied Resolve military exercise. They will continue for almost 2 weeks, including near the borders with Ukraine. We decided to find out whether it is true that Russia can use the territory of Belarus staging area for the offensive and how real this threat is. Ukrainian village of Dalsk is 3 kilometers from the border with Belarus. Local residents who come to the grocery store share their experiences.
We are
afraid of the situation. It is sad that Russia is attacking us. Why not to worry? At the same time, the man whom we met riding a horse-drawn cart is showing his actions. Belarus is not a big country. The checkpoint Dolsk is empty. It hasn't been working for several months. This is the Dalsk checkpoint, but now neither cars nor pedestrians cross the border here. At the end of last year, the Belarusians closed the checkpoint for their part, mentioning about the repair works. But visually, no work is being carried out there. Not far from the border, the militarization of Belarus is taking place. Over the past few weeks, under the guise of exercises, Russia has transferred to Belarus aircraft, artillery and anti-aircraft missile systems. In addition to all this, about 9,000 Russian military personnel has officially arrived in the country as part of the battalion tactical groups. The same groups participated in the invasion of Donbass in 2014. The military exercises will be held at 5 training grounds. This should be a normal exercise to work out the plan in the confrontation with these forces. From the west, the Baltic states and Poland, and the south is Ukraine.
Прибалтика и Польша и юга Украины.
The private American company Maxar Technologies published images of military equipment in 3 Belarusian cities within 50 kilometers from the Ukrainian border: Yelsk, Rechitsa and Luninets. Su-25 attack aircraft, Iskander ballistic missile systems, as well as long-range anti-aircraft missile systems S-400 were noticed there. Military expert Mikhailo Samus believes that all these units will participate in these exercises, but they can be used to conduct separate operations against Ukraine. The geographical conditions between Ukraine and Belarus are such that it is not very comfortable to carry out the ground operations, but just the actions of aviation, the actions of missile troops, missile strikes, the action of special operation forces, reconnaissance, and of course landing operations. These will be the main actions that will be carried out by Russia from the territory of Belarus. But so far no activity has been observed near the border. Along the border with Belarus, Ukrainian border guards have increased the number of patrols, and they increased the number of fighters in such patrols. If previously they moved in groups of 2, they now work in 3s and even 5s. They are observing not only the situation, but also the actions of the Belarusian border guards. What do you pay attention to while patrolling? We pay attention to the adjacent side. Because this is the situation at the border. In general, this is monitoring the adjacent side, and special attention is paid to adjacent guards, how they act. That is, you observe how the Belarusian border guards act? Yes, that's right. We often cross the ways and watch their actions. The border between Ukraine and Belarus is predominantly impassable areas, forests and swamps. Border guards get here on quad bikes. And in those areas where saboteurs can try to penetrate Ukrainian territory, border guards install barbed wire fences. Border guards say even a mouse will not slip through the Ukrainian side. In order to monitor the situation at the border, we actively use manned aircraft and unmanned aerial systems. In addition, mobile thermal images systems are involved in certain areas for observation. The situation is controlled. We do not notice any unusual situations, no provocations from neighboring state. This is the village of Sankivka in the Chernigiv region and mostly at the border. Moreover, not only with Belarus but also with Russia. Here, on the snow-swept streets of the village, it is hard to meet at least one local resident. One of the local residents says that he is not afraid of attacks from Belarus and he is not going to leave because of possible threats. Why would I be afraid and where would I go? Denis, a resident of the Chernigiv region, is also not going to leave anywhere. The combatant returned from the Donbass in 2015. Then he opened his own knife-making workshop. He learned this business himself and now makes unique knives to order. When a master makes a knife, he spends at least 2 days of his life. For those who believe in energy, the energy part of this work of this master is transferred to the product. Therefore, the knife has a soul. Denis is going to put one of the knives in his veteran backpack if he has to defend his family and country again. He's ready to join the territorial defense battalion of his area.
Це є, скажімо так, чіткий алгоритм дій на випадок війни.
There is an algorithm of actions in case of war. The first is my family. Evacuate the family and bring them to safety. That is the route of movement, place, refueling, replenishment of supplies. This is already prescribed and planned. It is clear that there may be some adjustments, but this has already been taken into account. As far as I can calculate this, after the evacuation of wife and children together with our group, I will join the territorial defense and act according to the circumstances. After all, we need a commander. Tank units are ready to support the infantry in the fight against the enemy. Ivan is the commander of a tank unit placed in the Chernigiv region. In the first year of the war, he understood what can be expected on the battlefield in the event of an invasion. Therefore, all of his tanks are now on full combat readiness. The vehicles are refueled, loaded and ready to leave.
Враховуючи обстановку, яка склалась навколо кордонів нашої держави,
Considering the situation that has developed on the border of Ukraine, one of the units in our brigade is in constant combat readiness. Tank and mechanized, which are on a signal, will enter a threatening direction. This threatening direction has been determined from where the enemy may go and defend a piece of the territory entrusted.
І буде обороняти, можна сказати, клаптик довіреної йому території.
One of the bridgeheads from which Russia can attack Ukraine is the Chernobyl zone, which borders Belarus. It is an almost deserted area where roads and bridges have been preserved. That is why military exercises were held in Pripyat for the first time. According to the legend of the exercises, the enemy managed to capture several buildings and the soldiers stormed. Everything was worked out in a complex. Artillery worked and police worked, which brought the civilian population out, and we also worked liquidating illegal armed groups. Russian-Belarus military exercises will continue until the 20th of February. After that, Russia must withdraw its military from the territory of Belarus, but it is possible that the planes and Iskanders will remain near the borders of Ukraine. Russia has been putting pressure on Belarus for a long time so that Belarus would allow them to use their air bases for stationing the airborne forces of the Russian Federation. The military space forces of the Russian Federation for covering them with air defense systems, as well as for deploying Operation Tactical Missile systems of the Iskander type and others. For Ukraine, in my opinion, this is the main challenge and the main threat that Russia can deploy its aircraft there, the same Su-35s or others. Also, they can deploy missiles with coverage of action, which in particular they reach the territory of Ukraine, and having placed accordingly air defense systems to control the strip of the border adjacent territory of Ukraine. In a village near the border with Belarus in the Volyn region, local residents also hope that there will be no attack. We pray that God will reason with Putin and Lukashenko to stop their aggression. The Ukrainian military will monitor the actions of the Russian and Belarusian armies throughout 2 weeks of the exercise, and if necessary, they are ready to use units in order to protect the northern borders. Reported by Alexander Makhov, specially for UATV.